Today, we'll be having a little bit of a closer look at Hawkeye. And Hawkeye is actually a character that I don't feel is wildly outclassed based off of his current iteration in this game, as he is still quite a practical character and has a lot of utility. But he has still been outshone a little bit, especially with recent character releases within the skill class. So we'll take a look at how he is currently, what he brings to the table, what he has to offer, and then discuss a little bit about things that could be tweaked or adjusted to make him a little bit better, as this I don't feel is a character that would be in need of a complete character overhaul, but there are some things that I've thought of that would be certainly beneficial to this character. As we jump into today's breakdown and speculation, make sure that you check to see if you're subscribed to the channel. If you're not, go ahead and fix that real quick as I bring daily gaming variety content to you. And be sure to check the description for both my Twitch and my Twitter, and go feel free to follow me on both of those platforms as well. So let's talk Hawkeye. Hawkeye is a pretty bare bones character in terms of what he's capable of. He doesn't have any wild perks or things that you have to look out for. He doesn't have any immunities, but the things that he does have do make him quite a potent, powerful character. The first one is that the special attack 1 has a 100% chance to inflict a bleed, and it's a decently powerful bleed that lasts for a 5-second duration. This will also deplete 40% of the opponent's maximum power, and given that each bar of power is roughly 33% based off of how a 3-tiered percentage would work, you can drain over an entire bar of power. So if you have pushed your opponent up to a special 3 and you hit them with that special 1, you will drop them down to where they would only be able to activate their special 1, provided that they don't have some sort of power gain mechanic that would ramp back up what they're capable of. The special 2 attack also has a 100% chance to inflict a bleed. This one is a little bit more powerful, deals a little bit more damage over a shorter duration, having a 4-second duration on the bleed off of that special 2. And the special 2 is a little bit trickier to avoid per se, just because it has 3 hits instead of 2, but they're both decently telegraphed attacks that would be fairly easy to avoid if that's something that you were to encounter as a defender in Alliance War, or as just a standard opponent in event quests. And the special 3 doesn't really have any notable perks to it. It doesn't guarantee any bleed damage, doesn't have anything else. And it's a bit of a stunning attack in terms of how it appears. I actually don't really have any complaints with the presentation of Hawkeye's 3rd special ability, though I certainly wouldn't complain if the first 2 were to be reanimated to make them a little bit more interactive and difficult to escape when it comes to facing this character as a defender. Now, the last item that we have to discuss is quite possibly one of the most powerful mechanics that I've seen on a character when it comes to bleed damage, especially with bleed duration. So every arrow strike, so the last hit of the different hits of the special attacks, which I believe can still activate off of the special 3, despite the fact that it does not have a set criteria of additional benefits similar to the specials 1 or 2, but I believe that the special 3 can activate the signature ability as well. That will cause a hemorrhage that will deal massive bleed damage for a very long duration. It has a set damage cap as to what it deals. It's comparatively at its maximum potency about 4 times the amount of damage that you would get out of the special 1 attack, but that bleed lasts for a 60-second duration and also can only be activated once per fight. That does not include the different team synergies that you can equip, specifically the synergy with Taskmaster, where using Hawkeye Special 3 will place a hemorrhage at the potency of the signature ability without consuming the 1 hemorrhage per fight from Hawkeye. So that's, I mean, it has its benefits, but when you really get down to it, you get a lot more utility out of the special attack, one, because of its power drain that is applied, as that's just what you tend to see most frequently with Hawkeye being used as an offensive character, is that you'll just be rinsing and repeating that special one attack. Now, because there's not really any other abilities that we would need to go over for Hawkeye, I do want to pivot a little bit and talk about how I feel that this character could be made a little bit more powerful, if you will. And I'm not talking about anything super crazy, but I would like to see something similar to the Winter Soldier mechanic, where after every special attack, you'll cycle between one of 3 different buffs. And of course, you would still leave Hawkeye with his power drain, but it would be an interesting twist because you may be able to use that power drain off of any of the special attacks instead of just the special one, depending on what type of arrow he has equipped at the time. Along with that, you could also have another arrow type that deals some incinerate damage that could possibly cauterize any of the open wounds on your opponents, to deal a bit of some stab damage, maybe exempting the hemorrhage damage that's being dealt from that 60-second bleed duration. One other thing that I actually think would be beneficial to see with Hawkeye, I would like to see that updated to be a passive bleed debuff rather than an active bleed debuff, mainly because that's a long duration and you start losing some of the potency with that with characters that have lessened bleed duration or characters that have a chance to shrug off a debuff. And if you change that over to a passive style debuff, then you won't run into the same type of issues of losing your very powerful damage output source, especially when it's an ability that only activates once per fight. I mean, if you land that on someone like Agent Venom or other characters that can shrug off debuffs, Aegon is another one that comes to mind, then you are just kind of out of luck, because it means that, well, you're banking, the thing that you were banking on to get a lot of your damage out of is no longer active, and you have to slowly burn down your opponent as you would otherwise in a standard match. That's just an idea, and I don't feel like that would be too overpowered, except possibly in the realm of that synergy with Taskmaster. But even at that, I'm pretty sure that the Taskmaster ability can only be used or have one of those hemorrhages active at any given time, so you can't stack up these 60-second bleed durations, and that would certainly prevent it from ticking over into that overpowered area. But having that power drain, having an incinerate that will cauterize bleed debuffs with the exception of that hemorrhage, those are a couple of ideas that I had. Of course, you may want to have an arrow that has some sort of sonic capability or some other justification for having a true accuracy application to it to prevent your opponents from avoiding out of them, as well as evading or negating the armor buffs that the characters have or the passive resistances that they have to incoming damage. That would also be something that could greatly benefit Hawkeye if he were to have some sort of buff of that nature or some sort of alteration to giving him a more extensive quiver of arrows that he can equip in any given scenario, and having some sort of dashback rotation to manually sort through those, as I feel that that works a little bit better than, say, Elsa Bloodstone and her different magazines or different ammunition types that she has off of her special attacks that do recharge over time. I just feel that for Hawkeye, it would work a little bit better if he had the cycle rather than the recharge aspect applied to those arrow types. But what do you think? Are there changes that you would like to see with Hawkeye? Updates and innovations to his character? Do you feel like he is good where he's at? Or let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below, as I'm interested to hear your thoughts and opinions on how you feel that Hawkeye could be adjusted or made better. Thanks again for watching, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day.